Release the Kraken.
Remember the good old days when the Red Wings were winning hockey games? It wasn't that long ago. They just had a great game against St. Louis, but the injuries continue to mount for the Red Wings. Hockey Nation fans, it is Monday, March the 27th. Can you believe it's the end of March? We looked ahead, thought last month was going to be rough. It turned out pretty decent for the Red Wings. Didn't end great. And man, March was rough. Lots of attrition here, but we've seen, the introduction of Simon Edvinsson, which is giving us some promise and hope for the future. There's still Elmer Soderblom in the minors, and you still got Marco Kasper, William Wallander. We've seen the integration of young guys like Jonathan Berggren, but Lucas Raymond, Jonathan Berggren not producing much. Michael Rasmussen out. More injuries, so to not only just Ben Sherratt, but now we see the before mentioned Simon Edvinsson, who got his first NHL goal and now has his first NHL injury. Maybe it's his second. He already had an injury in the game prior to the one, and then he's definitely out now. So the results of this, unfortunately, was a shutout by the Philadelphia Flyers. It wasn't for lack of trying. Down to Alex Nedeljkovic. I can still not pronounce his name. Somebody tell me how to pronounce his name. In net. No Ville Husso. Hellberg was hell. That didn't work out too well. Well, that rhymes. Hellberg was hell. That didn't work out too well. So down to Nedeljkovic. He actually played pretty decent. Not terrible. Let him 2 goals and plus 17 there, but I don't know. 19 shots on net is not overwhelming. It is just what it is, my friends. We are in the Ides of March. The Ides of March are almost over. It's April, and we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season, and it is what it is. So now, what do you see? Red Wings losing 3-0. They won again in the faceoff circle. They win again in shots on goal with 29, but just can't get it done. They actually out-hit the Flyers, but they're hurt. They're definitely hurting. Kiefer Bellows gets his third goal of the year. Owen Tippett's had a pretty good season for the Flyers, guys. That's worked out all right. Scotty Lawton had a pretty good season with all the extra ice time. Ristolainen is terrible. I can't believe they signed this guy, but we know Daniel Briere is the GM in Philadelphia. His son has been charged for pushing someone's wheelchair, and luckily there was nobody in it, down the stairs at Mercyhurst University. He's an old NCAA player, like all NCAA players, old. Tyson Forster is a good news story, getting, his third goal of the season. This has actually been interesting to see his maturation, because he was a guy that played in Barrie in the OHL and could score. He's a big, strong guy, but not the greatest skater necessarily. But he seems to be turning out okay, and we'll take a look at that. So the result of this really is Detroit actually helped themselves by losing. This is actually part of the Yzer plan, isn't it? We saw how competitive they were all year long, and now they're just falling. It's falling, they're falling. So 3 wins in a row for Philadelphia. If you're Philadelphia, why are you winning now? Like, you got 68 points. There's still 3 points between them and Detroit. Detroit's like, Why? Because, well, this isn't going to change. What's battling it out here? I mean, Pittsburgh, somehow they get a win, and they're still in the mix here. 3 points ahead of Florida. 2 more wins for Buffalo. The roller coaster continues, and Buffalo now is suddenly in the mix with 76 points. So this is going to go down to the wire. 10 games to go for Buffalo, 9 for Florida, 9 for Pittsburgh, 8 for the Islanders. So we got a little bit of a race here. And, don't count out Ottawa just yet. They got 9 games left, and they have 75 points. The odds are it's these 3 teams. We'll have to look at their schedules, but you have some opportunity here. So a little bit of a race for the wild card playoffs. Nothing at all changing up top. This is just staying alive. Boston continuing to crush souls. Will this continue into the playoffs for Boston? Imagine they lost in the first round to like the Leafs or something. Tampa Bay, coach was right. They're struggling defensively. They're not doing great defensively there. You got to think, you like your odds of going into the playoffs with this group. They're a veteran group, but man, they're not doing great. We'll look at some of the other scores since we don't have a lot to talk about in Detroit land. And if you're a crypto fan, it's all crashing again. There's another roller coaster for you. Sorry, I just got to notice. I was mentioning before Tyson Forster got his 3rd of the year. He's got 7 points since getting called up from the AHL in 8 games. He played in the OHL with the Barrie Colts, and this is turning out okay. He's a 2002 birth year. He's a big guy. He was always not like a beautiful skater, but he could score, and he's making the most of his opportunity. It was a 1st-round pick late in the 1st round, 23rd. So that's good news for Philadelphia to keep an eye on. I don't know what to say about that other game. I mean, I think it's just like you wait and see, and we're going to run the tankathon every time now, guys. We're just going to run the tankathon and see where does Detroit pick. And what you will notice is Detroit is now in 8th from the bottom, which is great because it's starting to get them into better territory for a better player. The big news really in Detroit are the injuries. I don't know. I thought I had this slide up. I guess I don't. I didn't put it up. The big news there is the injuries. So if you look at the injuries, they got no Philip Zadina now. They got no Simon Edvinsson. They're day-to-day. You're already missing Rasmussen. You're missing Ben Sherratt. I think. I mean, you're missing Ville Husso. Ville Husso, that is just not good news if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan. So the injuries continue to mount. And it's okay because they're not going to make the playoffs. They never were. That was never part of the plan. You've got guys like Austin Czarnik and Matt Luff in the lineup. You're not seeing much from Lucas Raymond. The talent's obvious, but just the production's not happening. You were getting some good offense in the power play from Alex Chiasson. So that's pretty good. But you got no Robbie Fabry again. You're just missing so much horsepower. Perron's not really producing anything. Veleno's not producing. And look at the defense that you're dealing with at the moment in Detroit. If you take a look at this, it's pretty rough. Olli Maatta, Gustav Lindstrom, who's not had a great year. Robert Hagg has proven he's not that great. Moritz Seider clocking in 26 minutes, 20 minutes for Wallman, and then Osterley. Ooh, that's thin. So you face only really he stops 19 to 21 shots, a .905 save percentage. I believe there was an empty net goal here. So it is what it is. That was the Tyson Forster goal. I mean, this is how Philadelphia's been playing all year. Most of the season, the beginning of the season was like this for the Red Wings where they were injured. But the real slide began, I think, when Michael Rasmussen left the lineup. So we're going to see, he's got the knee injury. They need a second-line center, and he at least gives them someone's a big body, has nice hands, and was starting to get offensive production. Adam Ernie, nothing there. Pius Suter, he had a little hot streak, but that's not translating now. So what is left is not much. It really isn't. So then you look ahead and you go, what do we have to look forward to in the future? Because that's all you got left. There really is nothing else at this point. It's pretty much, I got my Dark Trooper. It's pretty much, let's look to the future. Because at this point, there's not really much going on in Red Wings land. So if you actually the one we're going to run the tankathon because I think that's the key here. And then we'll do a little preview of Pittsburgh and we'll wrap it up. But if you look, Detroit now has gone from 10th to 8th. This is good timing. They've lost 2. They're 3-7-0, but this we know goes back to 20 games. I'm sure they've won 5 or 6 games in their last 20. Definitely been run. What is going on if you're Vancouver and you're 8-2-0 in your last 10? Why? Well, theoretically, they can make the playoff. I mean, theoretically, right? Are they going to? But they're, this is just taking them out. Oh, thanks, Fashion Nova. Let's take a look at if we simulate the lottery. Where do the Detroit Red Wings pick? 8th. Gosh, they just never get it. In this scenario, Columbus wins the Bedard sweepstakes. Philadelphia, who won, that's rotten. They won. They're still behind Detroit, as in the sense that they're lower than them in the standings, but ahead of them in the race for the top pick at number 2 pick. If you're Philadelphia, do you pick Fantilli? I think you probably do. Do you pick Fantilli or do you pick Leo Carlson? I like Carlson. San Jose, do you pick Michkov? No, I think you go Leo Carlson or Fantilli here. And then Chicago's got a tough choice. But I think in the end, if you're Chicago, you pick Michkov and you hope you can get him over. Well, I'm getting all kinds of Fashion Nova ads here, guys. That's amazing. Brighten up everybody's day. Let's run it one more time. Detroit 8th. Detroit 8th. So, unless you drop 7 below, and which could happen, but there's still 3 points here. And suddenly Philadelphia won 3 in a row. Why? Why are you winning, guys? What are you guys doing? What do you got to prove? This makes no sense to me. Good morning, Real Deal Prime. Lots of injuries right now. Simon Nemetson day-to-day. Philip Zadina's day-to-day. What do you think? Is it rough watching the Detroit Red Wings? It's nice to see Bergeron and Raymond in the lineup, but they're just not producing. When your offense is coming from Larkin, it's coming from Chase on. If they don't score, you got nothing. So it's a rough time. Definitely not helping things. No Robbie Fabry. The defense is chop suey. It's crazy. It's just a mess. But it is what it is. So not much going on in the standings. Tyson Forster, a pretty good news story, getting 7 points his last 8 games for Philadelphia. Now come Pittsburgh Penguins somehow are still in the playoff mix here. They're currently sitting in the second wildcard spot with Florida chomping at their heels, Buffalo chomping at their heels, maybe Ottawa. You never know. Maybe Vancouver. Maybe they pull off they're 8-2-0 in their last 10. If Vancouver does it again, maybe they are in, because not anyone ahead of them in those wildcard spots is kicking butt. I mean, you look, they're 6-3-1 is pretty good for the Islanders. Islanders seem to be good, but they're only 1 point up, and they don't have any games in hand. They're actually down here. So this is an important game for Pittsburgh. They got to beat the Red Wings to give themselves a little pad here, maybe to move up on the Islanders. So that's really important for them. Montreal's sitting in a great spot just for the draft. Just hopefully you don't lose the lottery. So 4-5-1. This is really important that Pittsburgh gets a win here. Detroit, really important they lose. So let's make it all happen. Tristan Jarry, what a difference with him in the net versus the other goalies. Ville Husso, not going to be back, I think, this year. I don't know why you would bring him back if even you could. I'm not sure that. I'm assuming they go back to Alex Nedeljkovic. Maybe they go Hellberg. I don't know. Not a lot of firepower coming out of Pittsburgh at the moment. Is that weird? That's weird. They've been up and down like a yo-yo. You expect this out of Detroit, but not out of Pittsburgh. You've had really good years from Malkin. You've had really good years from Crosby. So those are good news stories if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. And so you end up with a loss here. And then you got Carolina and Winnipeg. Detroit could play spoiler, but I feel like it's unlikely. They're very much kind of almost an AHL borderline lineup at the moment. Everybody's licking their chops, looking at Detroit here to gain in their spot. Carolina wants to lock in. Pittsburgh wants to lock in. Winnipeg needs to lock in. So these are important things for them. We looked at the tankathon. Detroit needs to fall a little bit here. So come on, Philadelphia, keep winning. Keep winning, Vancouver. and keep losing Detroit. That's kind of what you're going for at this point. And if you look at who they can get, what impact would these players have on the Red Wings? I was looking at this player from the WHL having a really good year. He is a true 2005 birth year, by the way. 95 points with the Kelowna Rockets. Cristal, he could be a player that maybe Detroit targets, although I don't know if that fits their profile. He's a smaller player. Who else do you go for here? I'm not sure. It's kind of weird. It's a weird time to be a Detroit Red Wing fan. It doesn't give you a lot to talk about. How are the guys in the AHL doing? I think we see in the East Coast League, Toledo, might have a little bit of a run here. So if you take a look, we got Sebastian Casa, who's actually made some progress apparently. And that's the goalie that they picked instead of, man, I still don't get this, but I'm sure it'll turn out fine. But we could have had Jesper Wallstedt. I mean, Jesper Wallstedt is 16-13 in the AHL. Jasper Wallstedt is a lot closer to the NHL. 910 save percentage, 269. That's what you want to see, particularly in the AHL. I don't know why I look at Hockey DB because it never supports me. It just doesn't love me. It loves opening new windows. Its mission is to open a new window all the time. It's just like useless. There we go. 244, 914 save percentage, but it's in the ECHL. But he has been playing well. What you want to see is this guy in the AHL next year, maybe get a couple NHL games. And maybe, you never know, you get lucky and you jump to the NHL, but I think that's unlikely. He's got to show he can play in the AHL, and then he probably needs to get 60 to 80 games lifetime before he's ready for the NHL. But Toledo's making some waves here. Kirill Tuchayev is not really cracking it. Such a talented guy, but I don't see that being a future Red Wing. Taro Hirose still having a good year. We've seen Austin Zarnik called up, Simon Edvinsson called up, so he's injured out of the AHL. Matt Luff called up. Camphor and Chason called up. Jakub Verana is doing quite decently. Obviously, Berggren. Soderblom, is he hurt? Jeez, we got to check in on that. I am not sure. That is something to check in on. And they're down to Victor Bradstrom and John Leatherman. Okay. A little crazy, guys. Lots of injuries affecting the AHL team as well. How is our friend Marco Kasper doing? Interesting. 23 points, 52 games. He had 3 assists in 9 playoff games. They play a shorter season, and they already have their playoffs, so they're ahead of the NHL here. Interesting. And now he's going to go down and play with the juniors, it looks like, and Rogel juniors. So that'll really bolster the junior club. That's a pretty good year for an 18-year-old. A true 2004. If you look at the top, by the way, think about that. Marco Kasper was already drafted. Good morning, RJ Calabro. Thank you for joining. Marco Kasper, already drafted last year in the first round. He's a 2004. At least three of the top 4 picks in this year's draft are 2004 that were born after September 15th. This is why I say it'll be a good draft year, but it's old. Now, I think Fantilli is going to be good, but he's behind where you would want him to be. If he had gone in that prior draft, he would have still gone very high. However, he's a little raw. Leo Carlson, I really like. I think he's more of a finished product at this point. Like, he's closer to being in the NHL and having a bit of an impact. But I guess we'll see if that pans out. When you're a big guy and you have that much talent, like Adam Fantilli is, you play him against better players and you get him with a good coach. The coach is going to have to rein him in. You could see that in the World Juniors. That being said, Marco Kasper having a real good year. He's listed at 5'10". He's not 5'10", is he? I thought he was like 6'1" or something, 6'2". Maybe I'm wrong. I thought he was a lot bigger than this. Is Marco Casper only 5'10"? I could have sworn that he was a lot bigger than that. Let's look at somewhere else that we trust a little more. Yeah, he's listed at 6'1". 6'1", 192. I was like, that was incorrect, Hockey DB. That's what you got to look forward to. His teammate, also a Red Wing, William Wallinder, actually finished ahead of him in scoring. Why does that matter? He's a 20-year-old defenseman, 6'3". I think he's bigger than that. I think he's more like 6'5". And he's 26 points in 50 games is pretty good for William Wallinder. So you got some potential there. That's what you're hoping for, and you're hoping you get a top pick. And then if Detroit does end up 8th, do they take a defenseman? I don't know. The defensemen in this draft are not amazing. If he's kind of 7th, 8th, you think maybe they grab an Oliver Moore, maybe they grab an Andrew Crystal. Those would be kind of the guys I would think they might get. But there is talk about Reinbacher, right shot defenseman, and they kind of need now some right shot prospects. Is Wallander? I think Wallander's a left. I can't remember. And then, you see if the Islanders make it, maybe they get another defenseman there. But there's no slam dunks in there, in my opinion. So we got Pittsburgh coming up. That's the deal. Tuesday night, we will catch up with you on Wednesday morning, and we will recap how did this game go. Did the Red Wings tank a little bit more? At this point, we kind of think that's probably good. And did Pittsburgh lock in their playoff spot a little bit more? That's what Pittsburgh wants. These three teams are chomping at the bit to get to Detroit, and that's fine at this point. It is what it is. The tone has changed, unfortunately, but we can be excited for the future. We can look at Simon Edvinsson and go, wow, who has a Simon Edvinsson and a Moritz Seider in the NHL? That's a crazy pairing. 6'6", 6'4", both skate like the wind, both have offensive instincts. And Simon Edvinsson's looking like he's willing to engage physically now. And he's a little bit better defensively. So he's hurt. He's a little lanky. But, man, he's going to be darn good. That is a high-end guy that could be a number one on a lot of teams. And I think that having Moritz Seider there, who is a number one and is only going to get better, is really good. So look to the future. Let's hope that Jonathan Berggren and maybe Lucas Raymond get a little bit of offense here. But in the end, this team needs centermen as much as they need D. They need D and they need centermen. It is what it is. All right, Hockey Nation fans, I'm going to wrap this up. We will see you on Wednesday morning, and we will recap what happened in the Pittsburgh game, and we will look ahead to Carolina. And, we'll probably be on Friday morning. Tonight, yeah, good point. Buffalo and Montreal, there'll be a live broadcast of Hockey Nation Live with Coach Frenchie. Florida and Ottawa, that's an important game. If Ottawa can beat Florida, then, that makes that wild card race all the more interesting. I mean, Ottawa would have 77 points, and they would actually be 2 points behind Florida at that point. So that's an important game for them. New Jersey versus the Islanders. The Islanders want to keep winning. New Jersey just keeps winning. A big win last night, I think, for Seattle. Did they win like 7-something? I didn't even watch this game. I don't really watch Seattle, but 7-2 against Nashville. Nashville also lost to the Leafs. Nashville not helping themselves. Nashville not making the playoffs. Last year was definitely an aberration. They got like career years from a bunch of guys. So if you just look at the standings in the West, it's a little different. Edmonton and Arizona. Arizona lost a close one, but that was an important win for Colorado last night in the shootout. Arizona showing hope for the future too. So that's good for if you're an Arizona fan. Are there Arizona fans left? That's a great hockey market, by the way. Like I go there and it really is a good hockey market. There's a really good youth program. They just need a proper arena. Colorado and Anaheim. So that's good if you're a Colorado fan facing Anaheim. And watch Anaheim. Mason McTavish making a case here for Rookie of the Year. They got Logan Cooley, Hobie Baker finalist in the NCAA. You're looking at that guy looking at and going, yeah. You got Olin Zellweger, former Everett Silvertip, playing with Kamloops. 29 or 30 goals in the season. If he's not Defenseman of the Year in the WHL, I'll be shocked. Shocked. Let's look at the West for a second. So Edmonton, 7-2-1, their last 10. They grabbed that third spot. Seattle with a win. They needed that. 88 points to now they're in the wild card. I don't see Calgary catching them or Nashville. And they just, put a stake in Nashville. But there's 10 games, so you never know what could happen. But you got to think Winnipeg coming in gots to beat Detroit. Right? They got to beat Detroit. This is an important game for them. Man, Vegas, since the Jonathan Quick trade, 4 wins in a row now. I mean, it's not the only thing. And they beat Edmonton 4-3 the other night. And they got another game on Tuesday against Edmonton. What the heck? I'm telling you, Jonathan Quick is just like, they used to say this, that he's all about just, wow, Brossoit is the guy that got he's back from injury. So Brossoit got the win. Former Edmonton Oiler, right? Calgary Flame Edmonton Oiler backup. Man, Vegas loves the revenge cycle, What do you think of Connor McDavid? I mean, 60 goals, 79 assists. We said this at the beginning of the year, he was on a mission to get 160, but he's going to at least get 150. You never know. He's got 139 points. He's only 21 points away with 10 games left. It's very possible he gets 160. Like, he's very close. Even at this number, it would be amazing. But if he gets 160, was the last player to get 160 points? Wayne Gretzky? Mario Lemieux? It's got to be one of those two. That's it. Nobody else has done that. Maybe Yager's. I don't think Yager's done that. And in a much tougher era, like the talent level, the goaltending, this is phenomenal. We got to watch this game. Watch that game on Tuesday. Do yourself a favor. Vegas and Edmonton rematch. Watch Connor McDavid. You're never going to see a player like this. Good morning, Luciano. Graziano. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm sorry you just jumped in. I appreciate you joining. Please hit likes and subscribes. Make sure on Tuesday, check in on the Detroit-Pittsburgh game. There's a lot of really important games that RJ has highlighted here. Montreal, Buffalo, important for Buffalo. Florida, Ottawa, important for both teams. New Jersey and Islanders is important for the Islanders. Seattle, Minnesota, that's important for Seattle, but just to solidify a wild card and not fall any further. Edmonton, Arizona, important. Oh, so I thought they were playing Vegas. Vegas's next game is tomorrow. Wow. So you got all back-to-back here. You got Edmonton, Arizona tonight, and then Edmonton, Vegas tomorrow. That's a rough Western swing. So you can watch them tonight against Arizona, and you can watch them tomorrow against Vegas. When I say them, it's Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's what you're watching. The acquisition of Matthias Ekholm, the return of Evander Kane has been very, very important for Edmonton, by the way. These are really good players. Ekholm, what an upgrade over Tyson Barrie. Significant. He's the missing piece here. Colorado, Anaheim. Watch for, important game for Colorado, keep getting points and solidify a spot. Anaheim got some really good young players. And there's some that are coming, but the guy to watch is Mason McTavish. He is making a run. He is making a run to be Rookie of the Year, guys. Look at the scoring of rookies. $42 points to Benner's 50. Benner's has been slowing down a little bit. You just never know. I got to think Benner's has got this locked in at this point. He's been the best player on a playoff team. Matthias Maselli is a crazy story. Kent Johnson, did you see the Michigan goal from Kent Johnson? That was something else. That was kind of cool. He was so happy. Some good rookies this year. This is going to be a good rookie crop for the future. All right, guys, we're going to stop. Thank you so much for joining. Please hit likes and subscribes. We will see you on Wednesday morning, and we will see the outcome of Tuesday night's game, Pittsburgh versus Detroit, and all these crazy games tonight. You've got Hockey Nation Live with Coach Frenchie doing the Montreal and Buffalo broadcast. The game's at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Check in with them, I believe, at 6, and have a wonderful day.